Hello my lovelies, I hope that you've had the most fabulous of weeks. I'm back today feeling tip-top, sharing my top tips for improving your sewing and your dressmaking. As a professional seamstress who has worked in industry for more years than I care to remember, and who's also been a teacher for a lot of that time too, I am often asked, how can I improve? How can I make my sewing better? What one thing can I do to become a better seamstress? And actually, I have condensed this down to just a few pointers, and I want to share that with you. Before I jump into my 5 top tips, I want to say a really huge thank you to all of you. It's taken me a little while to get through comments and so on because I have been rather unwell, and all of your kind words and your good wishes have really been medicinal for me, as well as the yucky medicines that I've been taking to get better again. Thank you so much, and also for getting me to 1,000 now plus subscribers. I am so over the moon and so pleased because, as you know, I love to share my passion for sewing with you, and it's so lovely to share this journey with kindred spirits out there in YouTube land. So thank you so much for those of you who already follow along, and if this is your first time here visiting me in my cottage by the sea, where I basically spend all my time thinking about, talking about and doing the sewing, then feel free to subscribe if you like DIY, vintage inspired style. This might just be your cup of tea. So my top tips for better sewing. I've called my top tips for better sewing the 5 P's because all the words begin with P. I like to keep things simple. So my first top tip for you is patience. Now, quite often I get new people in my classroom and they are so enthusiastic. They've been given or bought a new machine, they've got all the equipment, they've seen all the amazing Instagrammers making their beautiful clothes. They are filled with fire to get going, but they feel very disheartened at their first tentative steps in dressmaking. And what I would say, the first P, patience. I've been sewing for a very long time, and I've done so many different things working in industry, for costume film stage, for designers, for scientists, in the wedding industry. I really have covered a lot of ground, and the thing I have learned after 40 something years of sewing is there's still a huge amount to learn, and the best advice I can give is to be patient. It takes time to become good at something, and I think that you have to accept that you need to be patient with yourself and you need to be patient with the process. It's an adventure, it's a journey, and it's wonderful. I just have given myself the room and the time to do what is the second P, which is practice. Without practice you can't improve, and however enthusiastic you are, and I think it's really good to push yourself and to challenge yourself and to have high expectations, without practicing, without being patient and giving yourself time to practice, you aren't going to improve. Often I have students who come in and they don't necessarily want to follow the steps and be patient and go through it in the way that it needs to be done. They just want things done quickly, they want a quick result, and they end up bodging things and then becoming very disheartened. But it takes practice. Getting good at sewing seams takes practice. Getting good at putting in zips takes practice. And you will find that there are lots of different ways to do these different elements of dressmaking, and it's down to you to find the best way for yourself. Invest in books that show you how to do things. Go on some courses. YouTube, this amazing land of YouTube land, has hundreds of tutorials, and some people are going to resonate with you and other people are not. But you can find all of these free resources to help you, and you just need to give yourself a little bit of time to practice as you go on all your projects, and start with something fairly straightforward and easy, and then graduate up to the next step, and so on and so on. And before you know it, you will be at the level that you really need to be making the things that inspire you and make you happy. As I say to my students, learn the rules and then you can understand what rules can be broken. The next P may seem very unexciting, but it's to press, press, press as you go. Pressing is a really important element of dressmaking, and it ties in with understanding and developing a knowledge about fabric. When I was at university, we had to compile a fabric file. We had to collect all different fabrics and understand the composition and understand how to care for them and how to press them and how to sew them even. And at the time, I absolutely loathed this element of the program that I was on, but actually it stood me in very good stead. Understanding fabrics will vastly improve your ability to sew things that you want, and you will develop a huge amount of confidence in what you are sewing. I always advise my beginner students to get samples. Often they're free. Collect samples, find out what viscose is and what rayon is, almost the same thing by the by. But cotton comes in however many gazillion different formats and weaves and types and compositions and mixes, and how you press that fabric is going to have a really huge impact on how that garment turns out. I know 100%, and this is a do as I say, not do as I do, whenever I've cut corners with pressing and I haven't pressed seams as I go, and I haven't put that little bit of time and effort into a garment, it always shows at the end. Our commitment as dressmakers, we should be doing the best that we can with the resources that we have at hand. Sometimes we have to make do and mend. Sometimes we've got a bit of a budget and we can get quite jolly with the fabrics and components that we're using. But simple things like pressing, doesn't matter if that fabric costs you 50p or £50, it will look fabulous when you've finished, and you'll be proud to wear it and show it off to all your friends. My next P is to pin, pin, pin. I know that there are lots of lovely, gimmicky, exciting pins, and I know a lot of people who prefer to use weights instead of pin, and that's perfectly alright. If it works for you, it works for you. When cutting out your fabric, I recommend using glass-headed pins. I always keep the pinning within the seam allowance, and I pin, especially around curves, quite copiously. A lot of students I have patterns and then they put 4 little pins in and then cut round, and then wonder why it's hard to sew neat seams because the edge of the fabric is all squiggly. Whatever you're using to cut out your fabrics initially with the pattern, invest in good quality pins, and if weights work for you, that's absolutely fine as well. I am not 100% convinced about that myself. My fifth and final P is perfection. And then I'm going to do a complete disclaimer and say there is no such thing as perfection. My best advice really is to aim to do as good a job as you can. Find out as much as you can about the thing that you're sewing. See it as an opportunity to learn as much as you can about something, because it's all going to be useful as you continue on your sewing journey. Practice makes perfect. What you consider to be perfect is going to be completely different to what somebody else considers to be perfect. And on the whole, most people, and yourself as well, I hope, are going to be just so impressed and happy that you have made something from start to finish that expresses the unique and wonderful person that you are. I don't think anything beats having an idea, finding the fabric to execute that idea, getting the pattern, laying the pattern out on your fabric and then sewing that garment through and then putting it on for the first time and walking out that door feeling wonderful, because you are the only person most probably who has ever made that item of clothing. We're often let down by the clothes that are available on our high streets, and there is no such thing as perfection there, I can assure you. As I say to my students and to myself, aim for as good a finish as you can, but accept there will always be room for improvement. When you are making something for yourself, it can be absolutely perfect for you, whatever it looks like at the end of the day. As long as you are happy and as long as you are proud of yourself, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, that really is the only thing that matters. I hope you've enjoyed my 5 Ps and additional tips for improving your dressmaking and sewing. I have loved sewing my entire life and I'm absolutely bonkers about it, and it's so lovely to have you spending time with me in my little cottage by the sea, talking all things sewing. And I hope that some of my tips, some of the things that I have been talking about are useful for you, helpful for you, because at the end of the day, that's my aim. I really truly believe that we make the world a better place one little stitch at a time, whether we're sewing or knitting or generally crafting. It's good for us, it's good for our souls, it's good for the planet. I hope that wherever you are in the world, my lovelies, you are keeping safe and well, especially in these ongoing crazy times. And I hope that I see you next time in my sewing room in my cottage by the sea for lots more sewing and knitting and stitching and generally nattering about sewing. I'll see you next time, my lovelies. Bye.